Sudeva Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Narottam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiriet Nashtaprayeshu Vadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. So continuing with the discussion on Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila, Chapter 7, Lord Chaitanya in 5 features. Text 129 onwards. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is further speaking. Sarvashraya Ishwarera Pranava Uddesha Tattvam Asi Vakya Hai Vedera Ekadesha. It's the purpose of the Supreme Personality of Godhead to present Pranam Omkar as a reservoir of all Vedic knowledge. The words Tattvam Asi are only a partial explanation of the Vedic knowledge. So Tat Tvam, you are that. That's what it means. Tattvamasi, or means you are the same spiritual identity. Well, yeah, we all are spiritual beings, but Krishna is different. We only come under Jeev Tattva category. Krishna is in Vishnu Tattva category. We are not Krishna. We are never going to become Vishnu Tattva category. We'll always remain Jeev Tattva. We can become spiritually advanced, but still we'll always remain Jeev Tattva. Pranav Mahavakya Taha Kari Achadhan Mahavakya Kari Tattvam Ashira Sthapan. Pranav or Omkar is a Mahavakya, Mahamantra in the Vedas. Shankaracharya's followers cover this to stress, without authority, the mantra Tattvam Asi. The Mayavadi philosophers stress the statements Tattvam Asi, so Aham, etc. But they do not stress the real Mahamantra, Pranav or Omkar. Therefore, because they misrepresent Vedic knowledge, they are the greatest offenders to the lotus feet of the Lord. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says clearly, Mayavadi, Krishna Aparadhi. Mayavadi philosophers are the greatest offenders to Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna declares, Tanaham Dvishatakruran Samsareshu Naradhaman Kshipami Ajasram Ashaman Asri Shveva Yonishu. Those who are envious and mischievous, who are the lowest among mankind, are perpetually cast into the ocean of material existence, into various demoniac species of life. Life in demoniac species awaits the Mayavadi philosophers after death because they are envious of Krishna. Very heavy statement. Life in demoniac species awaits the Mayavadi philosophers after death because they are envious of Krishna. When Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Man mana bhav mad bhakto madhyaji mahanamaskaro, engage your mind always in thinking of me, become my devotee, offer obeisances to me and worship me. One demoniac scholar says it's not Krishna to whom one must surrender. This scholar is already suffering in this life and he will have to suffer again in the next if in this life he does not complete his prescribed suffering. One should be very careful not to be envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the present verse, therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu clearly states the purport of the Vedas. So, purport of the Vedas is to chant the holy names, Pranav, either chant Pranav or chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. But there's a difference between Hare Krishna Mahamantra and Pranav. The difference is Pranav represents Krishna. Hare Krishna Mahamantra is non-different from Krishna. Huge difference. And Krishna says, or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, that Krishna has invested all his energies in his holy names. He did not say that about Omkar. But Mayavadi philosophers, Prabhupada is very heavy, that life in demoniac species awaits the Mayavadi philosophers. after death because they are envious of Krishna. Envious of Krishna, envious of Krishna's position. And when they say it's not Krishna, it's to some um, eternal, unbound within Krishna, that's what you have to surrender to. Means they make difference between Krishna and his body, Krishna and his form. And that's not putting the right, the philosophy in the right way, or the tattva in the right way. And Mahaprabhu further says, Sarva Veda Sutra Kare Krishnera Abhidhan Mukhya Vritti Chadi Kaila Lakshana Vyakhyan. In all the Vedic sutras and literatures, it is Lord Krishna who is to be understood. But the followers of Shankaracharya have covered the real meaning of the Vedas with indirect explanations. It is said, Vede Ramayane Chaiva Purane Bharate Tatha Adavante Cha Madhye Cha Hari Sarvatra Kiyate. In the Vedic literature, including the Ramayana, Puranas, and Mahabharata, from the very beginning, Ado, to the end, Antecha, as well as within the middle, Madhyecha, only Hari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is explained. And Shankaracharya and his followers, they have really covered this. Swata Pramana Veda Pramana Shiromani, Lakshana Karele Swata Pramana Tahani Hani. The self-evident Vedic literatures are the highest evidence of all. But if these literatures are interpreted, the self-evident nature is lost. We quote Vedic evidence to support our statements, but if we interpret it according to our own judgment, the authority of the Vedic literature is rendered imperfect or useless. In other words, by interpreting the Vedic version, one minimizes the value of Vedic evidence. When one quotes from Vedic literature, it is understood that the quotations are authoritative. How can one bring authority under his own control? That is a case of principi obsta. Okay, I don't know what is that. That's English term. I have to find out what exactly it means. Or what I think it means is principi obsta means you're covering the real meaning. So we are not supposed to interpret Vedic version from our understanding or our realization. We have to understand it in disciplic succession way. Ei mata pratisutre sahajartha chadiya gaunartha vyakhya kare kalpana kariya. To prove their philosophy, the members of the Mayavad school have given up the real, easily understood meaning of the Vedic literature and introduced indirect meanings based on their imaginative powers. And this they have done plenty of places. Unfortunately, the Shankarite interpretation has covered almost the entire world. Therefore, there is a great need to present the original, easily understood, natural import of the Vedic literature. We have therefore begun by presenting Bhagavad Gita as it is, and we propose to present all the Vedic literature in terms of the direct meaning of its words. And this is Prabhupada, very big statement, propose to present all the Vedic literature. Maybe, I don't know, maybe he'll empower somebody, or he will come back to give us more literature, more books. Ei mate prati sutre karena dushana, shuni chamatkara haila sannyasi raga. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed for each and every sutra the defects in Shankaracharya's explanations, all the assembled Mayavadi sannyasis were struck with wonder. Sakala sannyasi kahe, shuna Shripad, tumi ye khandile artha e nahi vivad. All the Mayavadi sannyasis said, Your Holiness, kindly know from us that we actually have no quarrel with your refutation. of these meanings, for you have given a clear understanding of the sutras. Acharya kalpita artha iha sabe jani, sampradaya anurodhe tabuta hamani. We know that all this word jugglery springs from the imagination of Shankaracharya, and yet because we belong to his sect, we accept it, although it does not satisfy us. So they're saying because we belong to this sect, we have to accept it, although it does not satisfy our heart. So that's one thing we have to understand. Anything that is devoid of bhakti, even Vedvyas himself was not satisfied by giving all the Vedic literature, because he hadn't glorified bhakti and explained Krishna's pastimes. And that is when he wrote Srimad Bhagavatam. Because Narad Muni had instructed him to do so. So even Vedvyas wasn't satisfied. What to speak of us if we don't follow bhakti? Even this Mayavadi sannyasi, they're saying, it doesn't satisfy us, but because we belong to this side, we have to follow it. So that is also one thing we have to understand. It's not that we have to be emotionally or sentimentally connected with anybody. We have to learn the philosophy properly and then can we get connected. If it is not satisfying us, if it is not making us happy, following whatever we are doing, it's not worth it. Why get emotionally connected? Mukhyartha Vyakyakara Dekhi Tomara Bhana Mukhyarthe Lagala Prabhu Sutra Sakala. Now let us see the Mayavadi sannyasis continued. How well you can describe the sutras in terms of their direct meaning. Hearing this, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began his direct explanation of the Vedanta Sutra. Brihad Vastu Brahma Kahi Shri Bhagavan Shad Vidhaishwarya Purna Paratattva Dham. Brahma, who is greater than the greatest, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is full in 6 opulences, and therefore he is a reservoir of ultimate truth and absolute knowledge. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said that the absolute truth is understood in 3 phases of realization: the impersonal Brahman, the localized Paramatma, and ultimately the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The impersonal Brahman and localized Paramatma are expansions of the potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is complete in 6 opulences, namely wealth, fame, strength, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation. Since he possesses 6 opulences, the personality of Godhead is the ultimate truth in absolute knowledge. So the personality of Godhead is the ultimate truth, not Brahmajyoti. Swarupa Aishwarya Tar Nahi Maya Gam Sakala Veder Hai Bhagwan Se Sambandha. In his original form, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is full with transcendental opulences, which are free from the contamination of the material world. It is to be understood that in all Vedic literature, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the ultimate goal. That's what all Vedas point us to. Tare nirvishesh kahi chit shakti na mani, artha swarupa na mani le punata hai ghani. When we speak of the Supreme as impersonal, we deny his spiritual potencies. Logically, if you accept half of the truth, you cannot understand the whole. In the Upanishads, it is said, Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vishishyate. This verse, which is mentioned in the Ishopanishad, Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad, and many other Upanishads, indicates that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is full in 6 opulences. His position is unique, for he possesses all riches, strength, influence, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation. Brahman means the greatest, but the Supreme Personality of Godhead is greater than the greatest, just as the sun globe is greater than the sunshine, which is all pervading in the universe. So Mayavadis only go up to Brahm Jyoti or Brahm, but Krishna is even greater than this greatest. Although the sunshine that spreads all over the universe appears very great to the less knowledgeable, greater than the sunshine is the sun itself, and greater than the sun is the sun god. Similarly, impersonal Brahman is not the greatest, although it appears to be so. Impersonal Brahman is only the bodily effulgence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But the transcendental form of the Lord is greater than both the impersonal Brahman and localized Paramatma. Therefore, whenever the word Brahman is used in the Vedic literature, it is understood to refer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Vedic literature, it gives a reference to Brahman, but we have to understand what actually it means, not Brahm Jyoti. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord is also addressed as Parabrahman. When Arjuna says, Parabrahman, Paramdhama, Paramam Bhavan. Mayavadis and others sometimes misunderstand Brahman because every living entity is also Brahman, means we are also spiritual. Therefore, Krishna is referred to as Parabrahman, the Supreme Brahman. In the Vedic literature, whenever the words Brahman or Parabrahman are used, they are to be understood to refer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. This is the real meaning. Since the entire Vedic literature deals with the subjects of Brahman, Krishna is therefore the ultimate goal of Vedic understanding. The impersonal Brahma Jyoti rests on the personal form of the Lord. Therefore, and this is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, impersonal, the Nirakar, Nirvishesh, that rests on me, Krishna says. Therefore, although the impersonal effulgence, the Brahm Jyoti, is a first realization, one must enter into it, as mentioned in the Ishopanishad, to find the Supreme Person, and then one's knowledge is perfect. The Bhagavad Gita also confirms this. Bahunam janmanam ante jnanvan mam prapadyate. One's search for the absolute truth by dint of speculative knowledge is complete when one comes to the point of understanding Krishna and surrenders unto him. That is a real point of perfectional knowledge. So that is a real point of perfection knowledge, not just stick to Brahm Jyoti and say this is the Supreme. Partial realization of the absolute truth as impersonal Brahman denies the complete opulences of the Lord. This is a hazardous understanding of the absolute truth. Unless one accepts all the features of the absolute truth, namely impersonal Brahman, localized Paramatma, and ultimately the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one's knowledge is imperfect. Sripad Ramanujacharya in his Vedartha Sangraha says, Jnanena dharmena swarupam api nirupitam, natu jnana matra brahmeti katham idam avgamyate. He thus indicates that the real identity of the absolute truth must be understood in terms of both his knowledge and his characteristics. Simply to understand the absolute truth to be full of knowledge is not sufficient. So you have to know knowledge and his characteristics. And one who knows this, obviously, what he's going to do? He's going to serve him. In the Vedic literature, we find the statements, Yas Sarvagya Sarvavit, which means that the absolute truth knows everything perfectly. But we also learn from the Vedic description, Parasya Shaktir Vividhe Vishruyate, that not only does he know everything, but he also acts accordingly by utilizing his different energies. Thus, to understand that Brahman, the Supreme, is conscious is not sufficient. One must know how he consciously acts through his different energies. Mayavad philosophy simply informs us of the consciousness of the absolute truth, but does not give us information of how he acts with this consciousness. That is a defect of that philosophy. So in Vaishnava philosophy, we not only know how he acts with his consciousness, we know how he deals with his devotees so lovingly, how he takes care of them, and how he gets controlled by his devotees, how he wants to reciprocate with them through love. This Mayavadis cannot understand all this. भगवान प्राप्ति हेतु जे करी उपाय श्रवण आदि भक्ति कृष्ण प्राप्ति सहाय. It is only by devotional service, beginning with hearing, that one can approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the only means to approach him. Mayavadi philosophers are satisfied simply to understand Brahman to be the sum total of knowledge. But Vaishnava philosophers not only know in detail about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but also know how to approach him directly. The method for this is described by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as 9 kinds of devotional service, beginning with hearing. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atma Nivedanam. The 9 kinds of devotional service are hearing about Krishna, chanting about him, remembering him, offering service to his lotus feet, offering him worship in the temple, offering prayers to him, working as a servant, making friendship with him, and unreservedly surrendering to him. One can directly approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead simply by executing these 9 kinds of devotional service, of which hearing about the Lord is the most important, Shravanadi. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has very favorably stressed the importance of this process of hearing. According to his method, if people are simply given a chance to hear about Krishna, certainly they will gradually develop their dormant awareness or love of Godhead. Shravanadi Shuddha Chitte Karayodaya. Love of God is dormant in everyone, and if one is given a chance to hear about the Lord, certainly that love develops. Our Krishna consciousness movement acts on this principle, simply giving a chance to everybody to hear about Krishna. The purpose of it is simply give people the chance to hear about the Supreme Personality of Godhead and give them prasadam to eat, and the actual result is that all over the world people are responding to this process and becoming pure devotees of Lord Krishna. We have opened hundreds of centers all over the world just to give people in general a chance to hear about Krishna and accept Krishna's prasadam. These 2 processes can be accepted by anyone, even a child. It doesn't matter whether one is poor or rich, learned or foolish, black or white, old or still a child. Anyone who simply hears about the Supreme Personality of Godhead and takes prasadam is certainly elevated to the transcendental position of devotional service. So Prabhupada has made it so simple. When we tell people, or when we talk about bhakti, people get confused. What is bhakti? How to do bhakti? These 9 processes are there. Once I was talking to a relative of mine, and relatives generally, they don't like to listen to their relatives, especially who's younger. And then discussion was, what's wrong? We go to the temple and worship. I said, there's a big difference in doing puja and doing bhakti. And of course, they were not convinced, but at least they heard it. Huge difference. People do puja. They want to go to the temple to do puja, to do arti, and in the process ask for something. And for that, they will go to any temple and every temple. Or to Majar also, or to any place. But the purpose behind puja is to ask for something material. Purpose behind bhakti is to serve. Now we can say, well, the devotees sometimes are also asking, not sometimes, many times, which is fine. But they are doing bhakti. Whether Krishna fulfills their desires or to what extent he fulfills, that's up to Krishna. But at least the devotees are performing devotional service. It's not pure devotional service, but regardless, it is devotional service. Sooner or later, it will become pure. Now it's up to Krishna to purify the devotee. A huge difference between puja and bhakti. We have to do bhakti. That's all. I guess we can stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, in one liner, difference of bhakti and puja. How will I say? Not to go into too many details.
In puja, we do puja and ask for something material. That's the whole purpose. Bhakti we are doing because we've been told by a guru that this is bhakti, chant. This chanting we are asking for service. But on the side might be also asking for something material. Fine. But the main purpose is bhakti, to please Krishna. Puja is to please ourselves.
Okay. But it always starts from the puja, Prabhuji. Anybody who enters to...
Well, Krishna says, no, Bhagavad Gita, Chaturvida Bhajante Mam. 4 kinds of people come to me. So, Artho, Jigyasur, Artharthi, Jnani. So, not always starts with puja.
Achha.
So, Artha means one who is distressed. Jigyasu, one who is curious. Artharthi means one who wants some material benefits. And Jnani, one who comes because of knowledge.
Okay. And 99% kuch मांगने ही जाते हैं.
Yeah. Mostly, yes, we can say, but there could be in any form they're going. Okay, but Krishna said they all are punya atma. They all are pious if they come to me. Even if they're asking for material things, they should be considered pious. So that's fine.
But Prabhuji, he also says that beyond them, then the people who do bhakti are more dearer to me than these ones.
Yeah, see, he said they're pious. He did not say they're devotees. They're pious, he said that. Which is fine.
I had a confusion when this shloka was being read, because why is he calling distressed and or any person who comes for a material benediction a pious soul? Because then they have the intention is to get something from Krishna. So why is he calling them pious? But then he explains in the next verse itself that I call them pious and because they're coming to me at least.
Yeah, they're coming to Krishna. Yes. Not going to...
No, not going to demigod.
Yeah. Not just demigod, people go many places now.
All type of Babajis.
Yeah. Yeah, chalo, we'll stop.
Okay.
Safe and wonderful. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Krishna.